Remember Beatrice? The Tanzanian woman who escaped her uncle's plan to sell her and fell asleep on a ruthless Korean mafia boss's shoulder on that train? Well, 3 weeks have passed since that drunken night they both can barely remember. And now, Beatrice is staring at two pink lines that are about to change everything. A quick one before we go deeper. If you're just joining us or enjoyed episode 1, don't forget to subscribe to my channel so you never miss any update on this story. Beatrice sat on the edge of her bed in Jisoo's compound, the positive pregnancy test hidden in her nightstand drawer like a bomb waiting to explode. For 3 days now, she'd carried this secret, feeling it grow heavier with every breath. The words she needed to say played on repeat in her mind, but every version felt wrong, terrifying, impossible. Jisoo, I'm pregnant. Too blunt, too cold. That night after the gathering, something happened between us. Too vague, too weak. She pressed her trembling hands against her stomach, still flat, but holding a life that would shatter the fragile peace they'd built. This baby deserved a father who knew about them. And Jisoo, despite his dangerous world, deserved the truth. No matter how complicated it made everything. Beatrice stood, pacing her luxurious borrowed room like a caged animal. She'd rehearsed this conversation 100 times, played out every possible reaction in her mind. He might explode with rage. He might think she'd planned this deliberately, trapped him like so many women probably tried to trap powerful men. He might throw her out into the streets with nothing. Again. But she had to tell him. She had to. She caught her reflection in the floor-length mirror. Dark circles shadowed her eyes from sleepless nights. Her natural hair was pulled back carelessly. She looked exhausted, terrified, but somewhere underneath it all, determined. Jisoo, I need to tell you something important. That night after the underground gathering, when we were both drunk, something happened between us. I'm pregnant. It's yours. I'm not asking for anything. I just thought you should know. Simple. Direct. Honest. She took a shaking breath, squared her shoulders, and walked out to find him. Jisoo was in his private office, reviewing what looked like encrypted documents on multiple screens. Security footage played silently on one monitor. He looked up when Beatrice appeared in the doorway, and something flickered across his dangerous features. Concern, maybe. Or calculation. Can I talk to you? Beatrice asked, her voice steadier than she felt. Of course. Come in. He closed the documents immediately, giving her his complete attention. That focus, that intensity, it terrified her. Beatrice stepped inside, closing the heavy door behind her. Her hands trembled so badly she had to clasp them together. I have something I need to discuss with you. It's important. All right. He gestured to the leather chair across from his desk, but Beatrice remained standing. Her legs felt like water. Tomorrow, she said suddenly. Can we talk tomorrow? After work? Jisoo studied her for a long moment with those dark, unreadable eyes. If it's important, we can talk now. No, I need to prepare what I want to say. Tomorrow. Please. He nodded slowly, but she could see the suspicion forming. Tomorrow then. After dinner. That night, sleep was impossible. By morning, Beatrice was exhausted, nauseous, and more terrified than she'd been even running from her uncle. Finally, evening arrived. After a tense dinner where she could barely eat, Jisoo led her to the sitting room, closing the doors for privacy. His security stayed outside. So, he said, settling into a chair with the casual grace of a predator. What did you want to discuss? Beatrice remained standing, hands clasped so tightly her knuckles ached. That night after the gathering, when we both drank too much, something happened between us. Jisoo's expression didn't change, but something dark flickered in his eyes. I remember. I'm pregnant. The words tumbled out in a rush. It's yours. I'm not trying to trap you or manipulate you or ask for anything. I just thought you should know. The silence that followed was suffocating. Jisoo sat perfectly still, but Beatrice could see the storm building behind his carefully controlled mask. You're pregnant, he repeated, his voice flat and cold as ice. Yes, from that night. And you're certain it's mine? The question hit her like a physical blow. Of course it's yours. I haven't been with anyone else.
How could you even ask me that?
Jisoo stood abruptly, the movement sharp and aggressive. How convenient. The homeless refugee I took in is suddenly pregnant with my child. How incredibly convenient. It's not like that, isn't it? His voice rose, filling the room with barely contained fury. You show up with nothing. I give you everything. Protection, money, a business, safety from your uncle. And now suddenly you're carrying my baby. Do you think I'm stupid? Do you think I don't know how women try to trap men like me? Tears streamed down Beatrice's face. It wasn't planned. We were both drunk. Neither of us ungrateful. The word cut through her protest like a knife. After everything I've done for you, saving you, protecting you, giving you a life, this is how you repay me? By trying to trap me with a pregnancy? It's not fake, Beatrice sobbed. I'm pregnant, Jisoo. Whether you believe me or not, I'm carrying your child. Then it's not mine. He was at the door now, his face a mask of cold rage. I want you out of my house. The world tilted sideways.
What? Pack your things.
Leave tonight. But I have nowhere to go. You had nowhere to go before. You'll figure it out again. That's not my problem anymore. Get out. Jisoo, please. Get out. Each word was a hammer blow. I don't want to see you here tomorrow morning. Do you understand? He walked out, the door closing behind him with a finality that felt like a death sentence. Mrs. Han found her an hour later, still standing frozen in that same spot, tears dried on her face. The older woman's expression was filled with sadness as she gently guided Beatrice back to her room and helped her pack her few belongings. Where will you go, Miss Beatrice? Mrs. Han asked quietly. The boutique, Beatrice whispered. I'll stay at the shop. Mrs. Han's face creased with deep concern. That is not suitable for living. I'll be fine. I've survived worse. The boutique looked empty and haunting at night. Beatrice let herself in with shaking hands and made her way to the small office in the back. There was a worn couch there. Nothing else. Beatrice curled up on it, pulled her jacket over herself like a blanket, and cried until she had no tears left. She was alone again. Completely alone. With a baby growing inside her that nobody wanted. Jisoo sat in his office, expensive whiskey in hand, staring at nothing. The compound felt empty, which only made him angrier. She tried to trap him. He'd made the right choice. The only choice. So why did he feel like he'd just made the worst mistake of his life? He replayed the conversation over and over. Her tears had looked real. Her shock at his accusations had seemed genuine. And when he'd called her ungrateful, the devastation in her eyes had been absolutely crushing. What if she's telling the truth? They had been drunk. Very drunk. And honestly, he couldn't remember clearly if they'd used protection. Could she really be pregnant? From one night? But the timing was exactly right. And she'd never lied before, never asked for anything, never tried to manipulate him. Days turned into a week. Jisoo threw himself into his organization's business. Money laundering operations, meetings with other crime bosses. But at night, alone, he couldn't stop wondering. Is she okay? Is the baby okay? What have I done? Beatrice's life at the boutique was barely survival. The couch became her bed. The small bathroom became her refuge when morning sickness hit violently. She bought a cheap hot plate and kept basic supplies. Somehow, impossibly, the boutique thrived despite her personal chaos. She hired 2 local women, Grace and Mina, to help with customers. The money was just enough to keep her fed and the shop running. As weeks crawled by, her body changed in ways she couldn't hide. Her clothes grew tighter. Her belly began to swell. The nausea never fully stopped. But she kept working, kept pushing forward, because what other choice did she have? At 3 months, her belly was noticeable. At 4 months, she felt the baby flutter for the first time and cried. At 5 months, the baby was undeniably real, moving constantly. By 6 months, her belly was unmistakably pregnant. By 7 months, she could barely reach her sewing machine without pain. By 8 months, her belly was massive and she was exhausted every single moment. She was 8 months pregnant, struggling to fold fabric, when Jisoo walked into the boutique. They stared at each other across the shop floor. Time seemed to stop. Beatrice's hand moved instinctively to her enormous belly, protective. "Beatrice," he said, his voice uncertain in a way she'd never heard before.
Can we talk?
"What do you want?" Her voice was cold, guarded. "To apologize. I was wrong about everything. I should have believed you." Beatrice felt tears prick her eyes, but refused to let them fall. "You called me ungrateful. You said I was trying to trap you. You threw me out onto the streets pregnant. I know." His voice cracked slightly. "And I was wrong. So wrong." His eyes dropped to her belly, and she saw something break in his expression. "Is the baby, are you both okay?" "We're fine. No thanks to you. I want to make things right. Come back to the compound. Both of you. Please, Beatrice." Beatrice laughed, a bitter sound. "So you can throw me out again when it's convenient?" "No thank you. I won't. I swear on my life. Please come back. Let me take care of you both." "I don't need you to take care of me. I'm doing fine on my own. You're living in your shop, working yourself to exhaustion. You're 8 months pregnant, Beatrice. This isn't safe. I need to protect my peace." Beatrice's voice rose, echoing through the shop. She rubbed her swollen belly, suddenly feeling completely drained. "You destroyed my peace. I'm just trying to survive now." "I understand." His voice was quiet. "But please, at least let me help financially. The baby is mine. Let me provide something. I don't want your money. I never wanted your money. I just wanted you to believe me. That's all I ever wanted." Jisoo nodded, defeat written across his dangerous features. "I understand. I'm so sorry, Beatrice. For everything." He turned toward the door, and Beatrice felt something crack inside her chest. Some part of her that had been holding on to hope. Jisoo had his hand on the door when sudden, sharp, agonizing pain tore through Beatrice's abdomen. She gasped, doubling over, her hands clutching her belly. "Beatrice." Jisoo was at her side instantly, catching her before she fell. "What's wrong? What's happening?" "I don't know, Another wave of pain ripped through her, and she screamed. "We're going to the hospital."
Now.
Jisoo swept her up in his arms, carrying her toward the door. "Call an ambulance," he shouted to Grace. "And call my doctor. Tell them we're coming." The ride to the hospital was a nightmare blur of pain and terror. Jisoo held her hand in the back of his car while his driver broke every traffic law in Seoul. Beatrice couldn't focus on anything except the pain and the terrifying certainty that something was desperately wrong. At the hospital, they rushed Beatrice onto a gurney immediately. A doctor examined her while Jisoo hovered nearby, his face a mask of fear she'd never seen before. "What's wrong?" Jisoo demanded. "What's wrong with the baby?" The doctor stepped back, expression grave. "The baby's heart rate is dangerously elevated. She's showing signs of preterm labor. Have you been under significant stress lately?" Beatrice wanted to laugh hysterically. Stress? She'd been working 14-hour days while 8 months pregnant, sleeping on a couch, dealing with rejection and poverty and terror. "She's been overworked," Jisoo said, his voice tight. "Living in her shop. Working constantly." "I've been surviving," Beatrice interrupted weakly. The doctor's expression softened with sympathy. "You need complete bed rest immediately. We're giving you medication to try to stop the labor. After discharge, no working. No stress. Do you understand?" Beatrice nodded, tears sliding down her face. "She'll rest. I'll make absolutely sure of it," Jisoo said with deadly certainty. They kept Beatrice in the hospital for 2 days. Jisoo never left her side, sleeping in the chair beside her bed, bringing her anything she needed. On discharge day, a nurse went over strict care instructions. Complete bed rest for the next month minimum. You need someone to help you full-time. This is critical. "I'll manage somehow," Beatrice said quietly.
No.
Jisoo's voice was firm, leaving no room for argument. "You're coming back to the compound. Beatrice, you can be angry with me later. You can hate me forever if you want. But right now, you and the baby need proper care. I can't. You can. And you will. You have 10 minutes to say goodbye here. My car is waiting." Beatrice looked at him, saw the determination and something else in his eyes.
Fear.
Real fear. She was too exhausted to fight. 10 minutes, she agreed quietly. Mrs. Han had prepared the same room, but everything was different now. Pregnancy pillows on the bed, a bassinet in the corner, fresh flowers, medical supplies neatly organized. The older woman welcomed Beatrice back with tears streaming down her face. Weeks followed in a strange, careful routine. Beatrice stayed in bed, sketching new designs on her tablet. Mrs. Han brought meals and checked on her constantly, with gentle kindness. Jisoo visited every morning and evening, maintaining careful distance but always concerned, always checking if she needed anything. One afternoon, about 3 weeks after returning, Beatrice was resting in bed. Jisoo had left for business meetings. She was working on designs when she heard the doorbell echo through the compound. Then voices drifted up from downstairs. Mrs. Han's cautious tone mixing with another voice. Horribly familiar. Beatrice's blood turned to ice. Her uncle. She heard the conversation drift up through the expensive house. "I'm Beatrice's uncle," the man was saying with false concern. "I've been so worried about her. Please, I just want to see that she's all right. Miss Beatrice is resting." "She's been very ill," Mrs. Han replied firmly. "Perhaps another time would be better. Please. I'm family. I'm leaving Korea tomorrow. This is my only chance to apologize for everything." Beatrice heard Mrs. Han hesitate. "Wait here. Let me ask her first." Mrs. Han appeared in Beatrice's doorway, face troubled. "Your uncle is here. He says he wants to apologize. Should I send him away?" "Yes," Beatrice said immediately, fear flooding through her. "Tell him to leave now. If he doesn't, call Jisoo's security. Call the police." Mrs. Han nodded and turned to go, but then more footsteps echoed. Faster. Determined. Her uncle had followed Mrs. Han up. Uncle James appeared in the doorway, and Beatrice felt like she'd been transported back to that nightmare. He looked older, more worn, but his eyes held that same calculating cruelty. "Beatrice, my dear niece," James said, voice dripping false warmth. "Look at you. So pregnant. So safe in this beautiful place. I'm so happy you're doing well." "Get out," Beatrice said, her voice shaking with rage and fear. "I came to apologize. I was wrong about the arranged marriage, about how I treated you. I was grieving your father. You know how grief makes people act strangely. Please, Beatrice. You're my only family left." "You blamed me for my father's death," Beatrice said, tears starting to fall. "You tried to sell me to a mafia boss like I was property. I want nothing to do with you. Ever." James's mask slipped slightly, showing the coldness underneath. "I only wanted what was best for you. A secure future. But if you can't see that..." He glanced around at the expensive furnishings, the luxury. "I suppose you found your own way to security. I hope you're happy with your choices, Beatrice. I hope it was all worth it." "Get out," Beatrice repeated, her voice stronger now. "Mrs. Han, please make him leave."
Now.
Mrs. Han moved toward James with surprising authority. "You heard her. Leave immediately, or I'm calling security." James smiled coldly.
Fine.
"I try to help you, tried to reconcile, but I see you've chosen your path. I hope you don't regret pushing away your only blood family." He walked out, his footsteps echoing ominously down the hallway. Beatrice collapsed back onto her pillows, her whole body shaking violently. Mrs. Han rushed to her side, deeply concerned. "Are you all right, miss? Should I call the doctor?" "I'm okay, Beatrice started to say, but then pain hit her. Sharp, intense, radiating from her belly in waves that stole her breath. She cried out, clutching her stomach. Mrs. Han's face went pale with terror. "I'm calling an ambulance. And Mr. Jisoo."
Right now.
What Beatrice couldn't know, was that her uncle's visit wasn't just about confrontation or fake apologies. Days earlier, James had tracked down Mrs. Han outside the compound gates. He'd watched the household routines carefully, identified the housekeeper as someone who might be vulnerable to manipulation. James had approached her with an elaborate story. That Beatrice was mentally unstable, had run away from treatment, that she'd stolen money, and was hiding here under false pretenses. She's always been troubled, James had said with manufactured sadness and concern. Since her parents died, she's never been the same. I'm trying to help her, but she won't listen to reason. The pregnancy has made her paranoid, even dangerous to herself. I need someone inside to help me protect her. Mrs. Han had been immediately suspicious.
Something felt wrong about this man.
But James was persuasive, pulling out forged medical documents, spinning intricate lies with the skill of someone who'd done this before. I just need you to give her something, James had said, holding out a small glass vial. It's herbal medicine prescribed by her doctor to calm her nerves. Just a few drops in her evening tea. The stress is very bad for the baby. Please, I'm begging you as her only family. Help me save my niece. Mrs. Han had hesitated. Every instinct screamed danger. I'll pay you, James had said, pulling out an envelope thick with cash. 2 million won. Just for helping my niece take the medicine her doctor prescribed. She refuses to take it willingly, but she needs it.
Please.
I can't let her hurt herself or lose the baby. The money had been staggering. Mrs. Han's elderly mother needed surgery. Medical bills were crushing her. 2 million won was more than she made in 6 months of hard work. She'd taken the envelope and the vial, promising to help, hating herself but desperate. What Mrs. Han couldn't know, was that the liquid wasn't medicine at all. It was a carefully prepared poison, designed to induce miscarriage and potentially harm Beatrice permanently. James wanted that baby gone. It was the only thing binding Beatrice to the Mafia boss. Without the baby, she'd be thrown out. She'd come crawling back with nothing. And he could sell her again. For 3 days, Mrs. Han had been putting drops into Beatrice's evening tea. Just a little, exactly like James had instructed. And Beatrice had drunk it without any suspicion, trusting the woman who'd cared for her so gently. Now, watching Beatrice scream in agony, clutching her belly as pain ripped through her, Mrs. Han felt the first stirrings of terrible, horrifying understanding. Oh God, what have I done? Jisoo got the call in the middle of a high-level meeting with other crime bosses. Mrs. Han's voice was panicked, breaking. Beatrice is in labor. The ambulance is coming. Her uncle was here. Something is very, very wrong.
Please come now.
He was out of the room instantly, leaving shocked and offended men behind. None of that mattered. Nothing mattered except Beatrice. He arrived just as the ambulance was loading her. Beatrice was pale, drenched in sweat, crying and gasping. Jisoo jumped in beside her, without hesitation. Premature labor, very aggressive onset, a paramedic said tensely. We need to get her to the hospital immediately. Her vitals are concerning. At the hospital, they rushed Beatrice directly to the surgical floor. The baby's heart rate was dropping dangerously. Emergency C-section, the doctor announced grimly. The baby's in severe distress. We can't wait. Jisoo went in with her, holding her hand while they prepped for surgery. They cut into her belly and moments later, a weak cry filled the room. It's a boy, the doctor announced, but his tone was tense, worried. He needs immediate intervention. They rushed the tiny baby away before Beatrice could even see him properly. She tried to look, reaching out, but the doctors were already stitching her up while she lay there crying, terrified. Hours crawled by in agonizing slowness. Finally, a doctor came to where Jisoo and Beatrice waited. Your son is stable but in critical condition. Respiratory distress. For pounds, 2 ounces. Very small for 36 weeks. He paused, his expression darkening. We found traces of toxic substances in both your bloodstreams. Substances that absolutely shouldn't be there. Someone poisoned you, Miss Mwangi. Nearly killed your baby. The words hung in the air like a death sentence. Beatrice felt everything inside her turn to ice.
Poisoned.
There was only one person who wanted her baby dead. Her uncle. But how? He'd only visited today just once. Beatrice's mind raced frantically. But she'd been feeling strange for days now. Increasingly sick. Unless someone had been poisoning her gradually over time. But who? Who would do that? We're calling the police immediately, the doctor said. This is attempted murder. Police came, took detailed statements. Beatrice told them everything about her uncle, about the arranged marriage plan, about his threats, everything. Jisoo called his lawyers, his connections, everyone who owed him favors. "We'll investigate thoroughly," the detective promised. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, they were allowed into the NICU. Their son lay in an isolette, impossibly tiny, surrounded by tubes and wires and machines. But breathing, fighting. Beatrice touched his impossibly small hand through the opening. "Keto," she whispered in Swahili. "Precious jewel." Jisoo stood beside her, and for the first time, she saw tears in his eyes. "Keto Kong," he agreed softly. They stood together, watching their baby fight for every breath, fight for life. The next month was the hardest either of them had ever endured. Keto remained in the NICU, fighting respiratory distress, fighting to grow strong enough. Beatrice recovered from surgery while practically living at the hospital. Jisoo never left them, coordinating his criminal empire from the hospital, sleeping in uncomfortable chairs, bringing Beatrice everything she needed. Slowly, miraculously, Keto improved. His lungs strengthened. He began gaining weight, ounce by precious ounce. Some days were good, filled with hope. Other days were terrifying, filled with alarms and doctors rushing in. The police investigation initially yielded very little. Uncle James had left Korea the day after visiting, vanishing into Tanzania, then disappearing completely. But then a breakthrough came. Investigators found security footage of James meeting someone outside Jisoo's compound gates. They enhanced the image, zoomed in. It was Mrs. Han. When confronted, Mrs. Han completely broke down. She confessed everything through desperate sobs. The money, the vial, the lies about medicine. She'd been deceived, manipulated with forged documents, and a sick mother's medical bills. But she'd still done it. She'd still poisoned a pregnant woman for money. She was arrested immediately. James was now wanted internationally for attempted murder, but he was still missing, vanished like smoke. Beatrice felt betrayed beyond any words. The woman she trusted, who'd cared for her so gently, had been slowly poisoning her. Nearly killed her baby. Even if Mrs. Han had been deceived and manipulated, she'd still taken money to drug a pregnant woman. That was unforgivable. Finally, after 4 long weeks, Keto came home. 5 pounds, 8 ounces. Healthy. Thriving. Absolutely perfect. Beatrice settled into motherhood with fierce love. Jisoo was a devoted father, taking night feedings without complaint, holding Keto for hours, staring at his son like he couldn't quite believe he was real. 2 months after Keto came home, life had finally found some kind of rhythm. They were functioning as a family, though nothing was officially defined between them. One evening, Beatrice heard harsh, violent coughing from downstairs. She ran down with Keto in her arms to find Jisoo in his office, bent over, coughing so hard his whole body shook. "Jisoo," Beatrice rushed to him, alarmed. The coughing finally subsided, leaving him gasping for air. "I'm fine," he managed to say. But he wasn't fine. Beatrice could see it now that she was looking. He'd lost significant weight. Dark circles shadowed his eyes. He moved carefully, like he was in constant pain. "You're not fine. How long have you been sick like this?" "I'm not sick. Just tired from everything." "Jisoo, please don't lie to me."
Not now. How long?
He looked at her for a long, heavy moment. "Can we talk tomorrow? After Keto's asleep?" Beatrice nodded, dread pooling cold in her stomach. "Tomorrow then." Finally, after dinner the next evening, they met in his office. Jisoo closed the door, sat down heavily. "I need to tell you something," he said quietly. "And I need you to let me finish before you say anything." Beatrice's heart was already pounding.
Okay.
"About a year ago, I was diagnosed with a rare genetic disorder. Degenerative. It affects the heart and lungs progressively. There's no cure. No treatment that works. The doctors gave me 2 to 3 years. Maximum. The world stopped spinning. Everything stopped. That's why I helped you on the train that night," he continued. "I was dying. Wanted to do something good with whatever time I had left. I never expected to care about you. To fall in love. to have a son, to want desperately to live when I knew I couldn't.
Jisoo.
The disease is progressing much faster than they predicted. The stress of everything, the fear of losing you and Keto, it's accelerated things. He turned to face her fully. I have maybe 2 months left. 3 if I'm incredibly lucky. Beatrice felt like someone had physically torn out her heart. 2 months. Why didn't you tell me sooner? Why did you hide this? You were pregnant, recovering from being poisoned, dealing with Keto in the NICU. You had more than enough to worry about. I didn't want to add to your burden. So, you were just going to die without telling me? Without letting me prepare? Without giving me a choice?
I'm sorry.
For everything. For not believing you about the pregnancy. For throwing you out. For not being honest about my condition. For leaving you and Keto when you both need me. Beatrice was crying now, tears streaming down her face. You can't leave us.
Keto needs you.
I need you. I know.
God, I know.
If I could change it, I would give anything. But I can't. He took her hands in his, holding tight. So I'm asking you, for whatever time I have left, please let me be part of your lives.
Really part of it.
Let me be Keto's father. Let me love you both the way I should have from the beginning. Let me try to make up for all the ways I failed you. Beatrice looked up at him through her tears. She was still angry for all the ways he'd hurt her, all the pain he'd caused. But she was also terrified of losing him, of Keto losing his father. She had a choice. Hold on to her anger and waste what little time they had left. Or let it go and make these final months as beautiful as possible. What do you think? Should Beatrice forgive Jisoo and give him the peaceful final chapter he's desperately hoping for? Should she let go of her hurt to make these last 2 months meaningful for him, for their son, for the family they could have been? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Episode 3, the final episode, is coming soon. We'll find out if Beatrice can truly forgive. What happens in Jisoo's final days. Whether Uncle James faces justice for what he did. And what the future holds for Beatrice and baby Keto.
Don't miss the finale.
Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the final part of their story. See you in the next episode.